Let's bring Zander in.
What's up, Big Sills?
What is going down, brother? I appreciate you coming aboard with us, man. Thank you so much.
Big Sills, I love Mark Holmes, but every time we have Mark Holmes on, every single time, I get more and more confident in my Philadelphia Eagles because what a disgrace it is to be a Dallas Cowboy fan and actually want to win football games and win championships and win what we all want here in Philadelphia. If you want to be a cheerleader or you want to be all those things and you want to have the cool brand and you want to have merchandise and all that crap, it's great to be a Cowboy fan. But boy, do I feel better about the Philadelphia Eagles every time that guy comes on. Mark, I love you though, brother. I appreciate you coming on.
No, because I was listening to him and he goes, yeah, and I'm going like, you know why I'm a little salty in Philly? Because these guys are right here. Your guys are like, you're Grand Canyon away from winning something.
Yeah, they really are.
They're a Grand Canyon away.
I'm going to continue ripping on them too when we do this segment with the 1-year deals.
Yeah, no. Hey, we're gonna take a look at that, but I also want to throw some of these potential free agents. One thing you guys talked about today with Reed Blankenship that I wanted to, and you said this perfectly the other week about Isaiah Rodgers. Zander, they're going to do the same thing to Reed Blankenship that they did to TJ Edwards. He's a UDFA. They're going to exit that guy, whether he has a good year or not, or he starts developing into being a good safety. They're moving off of him because of Sidney Brown and some of the other guys that got back there in the secondary now. Because if they did it to TJ Edwards, don't you think they're going to do that to a Reed Blankenship? And by the way, you and I think we're the same on Reed. Some days I like him. Some days I don't. Some days I kind of like him. Right. I'm kind of that guy. I'm kind of around the room with him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, is Reed Blankenship a guy that you look at that? Look, I like Reed. I'm not against him, but
there's a need for him though.
If they were to do that though, there's business in the NFL. There's turnover on every roster. You're not going to lock up every player. You're not going to give every guy the big extension. You're not going to do that. There's always going to be turnover. And if one of our turnover spots is Reed Blankenship, I mean, I'll live. I really will. Now maybe they will go that route, but I don't think they will actually.
You think they'll keep him on the team?
I think at least for the next 2 seasons, this season and then the season after this, so 2025. So the next 2 years, I think Reed Blankenship's going to be an Eagle. Now, after that, that's when the jury is out because I believe they went out on a limb and they bought out his restricted free agent contract, which would be for next season. So he'll be here for the next 2 years. They didn't have to do that. So they signaled they liked the player. But, look, after that, I'm not going to get caught in that. I don't care. I really don't. He's not one of the guys I think that's a staple of this team for the next 6 years. All of those guys are under contract.
I'm going to throw some people that won't cost you any draft picks, but just some cash that you have. You have $27.7 million. There's some areas on the team, and you guys were talking about some of those areas. So you know what I did? I expanded it and went and took a look at some of those guys that are available right now. Now, look, if you want to make a trade for Hendrickson, be prepared to pay $20 million in a 3-year contract. That ain't going to come cheap because Duke Tobin, the GM there in Cincinnati, is not just going to hand that guy over for a target price. He's going to want Neiman Marcus numbers. Okay. So I put down these guys, about 11 or 12 guys here. How about Justin Simmons here? You were talking about, and I think also someone else was talking, I think it's Mike Gill, was talking about the safety position. Justin Simmons was second-team All-Pro. He is 31. He's a guy that understands what Vic is trying to accomplish. He played for Vic. Would that be somebody? And again, I'm not talking about 2-3 years from now. I'm talking about a guy who could solidify that position. Can you imagine having Justin Simmons, having Gardner Johnson, having Keely Ringo or Isaiah Rodgers or whomever at the left, Quinyon Mitchell, and over Slay. And you have that group and also the guy coming in, Cooper DeJean. I mean, how does that sound?
Yeah, I mean, he's 31. He's what? How old is he? He's
31.
He's 30. He's going to be 31 in November. 15 games played last year, 12 games played the previous year.
Second team All Pro, not Pro
Look,
Bowl.
great player, but I'm all right if they make the move, but I'm not itching for it, if that makes sense. If they want to add him and they think that Reed can't be a starter, then that's good. They have the money to spend. Also, I think he's still in the market because John's been saying this. I think John's right. He just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to go through all this off-season crap. He doesn't want to do the training camps, and he's probably waiting for the right team to sign with, late August, and that's when he'll make his move. He also wants to be a starter. So if you're going to sign him, you have to understand that if he's going to start, the next guy who's going to go to the bench is going to have to be a depth piece and a special teams player. So I don't think.
So for you, Zander, it's got to supersede playing the young guys. It's got to mean
and I don't
a
know
lot
if it does. I'm just
okay.
I just like
because there is a part of that going. You got to play these guys, and you got to break the umbilical cord eventually.
Yeah, exactly, and that's part of where we are right now in 24. Anyway, not many people are ready to admit that yet, but that's a truth. I mean, if you're going to have Quinyon, if you're going to have Cooper, if you're going to have Keely Ringo playing, if you're going to have Nakobe Dean playing, you're going to have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis as your front guys on the line. I mean, there's still Band-Aids to be ripped off with this defense. That's why I think 2025, not to look ahead already, I think we're going to be great this year. But 2025, I think we're going to approach this defense like, wow, we got a squad now. Because think about every player on that defense that matters. Because we're about to talk about one-year deals. Jalen Carter's under contract for at least the next 4 years. Jordan Davis at least the next 3 years with his fifth-year option. You have Milton Williams is on an expiring deal, so that's one that you'll see. Bryce Huff is under contract for the next 3 years, at least minimum 2. Nolan Smith's here for the next 4 years. Not saying he's an impact player, but at least he's under contract. I mean, all your safeties, Gardner Johnson, 3-year deal. Reed Blankenship at least the next 2. I mean, these are all got, and then all your corners obviously are 4 or 5 year deals.
All massive question marks.
All question marks, but my point is that there's continuity. So if they are able to rip the Band-Aid off this year with the playing time, you're going to go into next season with a much higher upside at defense than you are this year. You're not losing anybody, other than maybe Milton. We'll see.
This is an interesting one here. And I think it has a lot to do, and it has a lot to do with what you're doing with Bradbury. Stephon Gilmore. Now, let me throw this at you before you shake your head no on this. He's better than Slay. He had a better year than Slay. He was graded out higher than Slay. He's another guy that's in that room, like you said. He's looking for the right situation. And can you imagine having a Stephon Gilmore teaching your younger guys like Quinyon Mitchell and a guy like Cooper DeJean and the rest of those Keely Ringo and those younger guys, Isaiah Rodgers even, where you have a guy who's going to Canton. You have a guy who's the former defensive player of the year. You have a guy who's a 6-time Pro Bowler. You have a guy who's the same age as he's younger than Slay, actually. And if he's good, and Zander, these other guys turn out to be good, you can trade him for some equity at the trading deadline and move the guy. Because to me, he's not a question mark. Keely Ringo, Quinyon Mitchell, DeJean, all these guys are question marks. He ain't. And you have, like you said, you have question marks in the secondary. You have question marks in your linebacking core. You have question marks in your pass rush. You have question marks on your edge rushers. I mean, don't you want to diminish some of that?
Yeah, but why are you so
Get some certainty?
And you're saying Stephon Gilmore is that level of certainty?
He's better than anything you have right now at the other corner.
Yeah, but how old is he?
He's 31.
Sills, don't you want to rip these Band-Aids off, or do you want to keep them on there and
win? Or are we going to be going through training wheel things like we did a year ago?
Okay, how'd that work in Kansas City?
You have Patrick Mahomes.
Well, okay, but their defense was a major part of the reason they won games last year. And by the way, Patrick Mahomes doesn't play defense. Now, I know he makes life easier when you're
not a guy on your team that has the talent of Trent McDuffie.
You're missing the point, though.
Okay.
You have to be willing to rip the Band-Aid off and go through that to be able to get to the other side in a way that works when you're paying $170 million on your offense. That's reality.
And the
You've
coaching
got
over
the
there
guys under
too with
contract.
Steve
That was my
Spagnuolo
point
too.
about. That's my point, though, about what I just said. You're not going to have turnover. Now you're going to go and sign Stephon Gilmore. You're going to have 2 30-plus corners playing, and then you're going to approach the season next year with a bunch of nothings, with a bunch of players who've never hit the field before.
Why is Bradbury still on your team then?
Because they can't move him. He's not going to be here when the season comes.
You can cut him for $4 million.
Okay, they'll
You
cut
have
him.
$27 million.
Howie's going to exhaust every option, like Howie always does, and he's going to take him all the way into August.
There
and
is
he's going
no
to try and
option.
find a trade partner for him when somebody gets hurt in training camp.
There
And
is
if he
no
can't,
option.
and if he can't,
Nobody's picking up $11 million.
Pigs Hills, you're wrong. There is options.
Who in the world would pick up an $11 million contract for a guy who is one of the worst rated corners in the league, and you have to pay that money? I'm not doing that.
Okay, maybe they won't. Then they'll cut him. Who cares? What's your point?
Why is he on the team? Why are you going into training camp giving the younger guys the reps? Why is he on the roster spot? There's a roster spot
Big
there.
Sills, you
If
read
you're so
between the
concerned
lines
about youth, what's he doing on the team?
You read between the lines on everything, and I love that about your show. But are you not reading between the lines here on James Bradbury? The guy's been a cornerback for 10 years in the NFL, and they come out of training at minicamp and they say, James Bradbury's a safety now. They're obviously waiting until he's off the squad. They're exhausting the options. If somebody gets hurt in training camp on a team that is a maybe contender, a team like an Atlanta or a Green Bay or somebody that might be a contender, Howie will move him for a late round pick and we'll be onward. If they don't, if it doesn't come, Howie's going to cut him. And we're going to be in the same circumstance that you're talking about right now.
And going into the season with even lesser experience.
But you're saying you want to get rid of Bradbury anyway.
Yeah, because I want to bring in a guy who's good.
Yeah, but then you're going, all right, so now you're going to
But no, remember what I said.
That's a short-term hole and create a longer-term problem.
But no, what I said was this is contingent on Bradbury. If you remember what I said, depending, if you get rid of Bradbury, wouldn't you want a little bit more experience at the corner to be able to have a safety net and a fail-safe? If that corner thing doesn't turn out to be what you have, like you said, you got youth at linebacker, youth in the D-line, youth at edge, you got youth at one corner for sure, and you got youth in the safety position. You're telling me you don't want to have any fail-safe where you can go, that guy, at least I know, is a competent corner. You don't know you have another competent corner. You have no idea.
I'm just not confident in your fail-safe. I'm not knocking the idea of having another fail-safe, but I'm saying football, especially.
So you'd rather go into the season with the question mark being what it is instead of diminishing question marks?
I would rather do business the way the Eagles are doing business right now than continue to patch holes with Band-Aids and one-year deals on guys who are old and on the wrong side of 30.
They're going to do it next year.
What do you mean, what are we doing next year?
I said next year they're going to do the same thing. They got 27 free agents next year. They're going to do the same thing next year.
How many players in our starting 22 are free agents next year?
We're going to get there. Hang on.
Exactly. Okay. There's not one of them. Not one guy who's a starting 22 besides Darius Slay is potentially on the outs next year. Not one.
Okay. And again, that's right. And the rest of them are all people who have accomplished dick in this league. You have nobody on that
NFL, bro.
You have nobody on defense that has accomplished anything.
Dan, you can't draft guys that have experience.
You don't even play them.
That's
you had a chance to play
dude.
Nolan Smith last year, and you refused to.
Look, I'm not saying they do everything right. All I'm saying is when you have guys and you have a roster that needs to get younger, it's not, you're doing a disservice to your team to not play your young cornerbacks and to go into next season now because with guys who have never hit the field because you decided to sign Stephon Gilmore to a one-year deal. That's just dumb. That's bad business. That's Cowboys-esque business.
Oh, okay. No, that's Howie business because that's what he does.
It's not. That's
he
not
signs one. Who's Devin White?
Okay. At some
Who's
moment.
Devin White? Who's Zach Vaughn?
For every guy you pull up right now, I can give you 2 superstars who are under contract.
Who's a superstar on defense that's under contract? Name me one.
Jalen Carter.
He's a superstar? I'll wait and see on that. I think he will be.
He's on his way to being
Give me
one.
another one.
There's none more on defense, but that's the known problem with the football team is that you have a lesser defense than you do of an offense. By the way, the Chiefs were in the exact same boat and Mahomes was still winning. You know what happened to the Kansas City defense last year in the second half of the year? They got nasty good because the young guys that they drafted had a chance to play. They didn't even sign L'Jarius Sneed, who was a young superstar cornerback. They said, nah, you're good. Go ahead.
I think that Cape May place got the sun to you, man. I think you're delusional, but it's okay. Don't worry. Actually, this segment's even better than the Mark Holmes thing. I'm very loving this now. How about this one
You're
here?
telling me to bring in Stephon Gilmore to patch a short-term problem. No, you just spent a first-round pick on Quinyon Mitchell. Put the guy on the field.
Okay.
If there's growing pains, there's growing pains. That's life in the NFL.
Well, then you ain't going anywhere.
Bullshit. You're
Okay.
assuming.
Okay.
Just like I'm assuming the player is going to be good. You're assuming the player is going to be bad.
I'm assuming I know what rookies look like.
No,
we don't know. So you think he's Sauce Gardner?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You just said it.
You're saying he's a trash can. You're saying he's a Jalen Reagor of
I did not say that either. No, let's move on. Let's move on. Okay. So Xavier Howard played with Vic down in Miami. Now, there was a lot of conversation with the secondary. I doubt that this is a fit here. Okay. Okay. You said it this morning. Correct me if I'm wrong. They need maybe a little more depth back there at safety.
Maybe. Some people say they do.
Okay. Let's move on here. Yannick Ngakoue, edge rusher. Not a frontline guy, but do you agree? You need some depth.
Yeah, I like that.
At edge.
I like that because your young guys are going to play anyway. Bryce Huff's going to be your starter. I don't like Josh Sweat. I'm done with the dude. Now he's on a 1-year deal. There's no way he has a long-term future here in Philadelphia. And he takes plays off. He's inconsistent as hell. I know he had the knee problem and stuff and a catastrophic injury. It's amazing what he's been able to do. But this is where I'm play the young guys. I would rather Nolan Smith struggle over there and get up to game speed in the NFL than watch Josh Sweat play 8 out of 16 games this year and play half okay in some of them. But yeah, no, I like an Ngakoue. I mean, he's a good player. He's a good depth piece. He's a guy that's more proven, and I like it because you don't have to start him. That's what I don't like about the Gilmore thing.
And you probably don't have to pay him a lot.
I know, but the difference between this and the cornerback position is you're not going to switch out cornerbacks on a play-to-play basis like you do edge rushers. Edge rushers come on and off the field. So you're going to be able to keep Ngakoue to 20 to 30% of the snaps, still get your young guys reps. No, don't overtask them, and everybody benefits. Cornerback is a different game. But yeah, Ngakoue, he'd be good. I mean, how old is he though?
31. I think he's up there.
He's getting up there. I mean, he's had some really good years.
But what I'm saying is he's not a frontline guy, Zander. He's a guy he's a piece you can rotate with. Okay. He's I think his best years were in Jacksonville. Okay. When he was down there in Jacksonville, he could be 33. He could be 33.
He's 29, actually.
Oh, he's 29?
29, and he just turned 29 in March. Yeah. So yeah, he's still out there, which is a little interesting.
He's probably looking for the right opportunity too. They want to see what a lot of these guys that get down to this point, they want to see what happens in camp. Guys get hurt because if a guy gets hurt, what happens? Your value goes up, Zander. So that's what they're waiting for.
I'll tell you what, though, Sills, he's been all over the yard, man. I mean, he was in Jacksonville, then he was on 2 teams, then he was on Minnesota and Baltimore, then he was on the Raiders, then he was on the Colts, then he was on the Bears. I don't know.
But what are the numbers? I mean, what the last 5 years? What are his sack numbers?
2020, he was on 2 teams between Minnesota and Baltimore. He had 8 sacks, 5 in Minnesota.
I'll take that as a backup.
Yeah, 2021, he had 10 sacks, which is a nice year. He had a full game, 17 games played, which was great.
I'll take that.
9.5 and 22.
I'll take
he
that.
Played 15 games. Last year he had 4. So a little bit of a drop off last year. But yeah, I mean, look, that's it. I like that. I'm good with that. I think that would be a good ad. He's a guy that clearly still had some in the tank, 2 years ago, maybe last year. It more looks like last year was a fluke than a trend. So I could go that. And like I said, he's not a guy you're going to have to rely on to be your starting edge. And if you don't get production out of him, you're screwed. He's a guy that adds depth and keeps good players in the field in all 3 downs. I like that for that reason.
What's Marshall saying here? No Doc Ways. Oh, no Doc Way sales. Okay. All right.
And how
about this one? I'm not a fan of this. I'm throwing some names out on guys that could help your roster that are available. I don't know what this guy. Look, I thought that this guy, he's 28 years old. I thought Jamal Adams was a good ball player. 2020, he was a Pro Bowler. But in the
One
last
of the
3
worst
years,
trades in the history of the NFL.
but he in the last 22 games, he's played 22 games in 3 years. So that contract that he got from Seattle when the Jets traded him, I think for 3-1s.
3-1s for a safety, and he never even played good. That is
I
catastrophic.
thought he had 1 year up there where he had 20 sacks.
Okay, 1 year. You gave
1
up
year. No,
three-
they paid him.
three
He was the
ones?
highest paid.
That's a franchise-changing trade.
Yeah,
That's more than the Texans got for Deshaun Watson.
absolutely. 3-1. That's what you gave up. The Dolphins did for Trey Lance.
Dude,
Or that's what the Niners gave up for Trey Lance for a quarterback.
Yeah, and to their credit, they're lucky
Well,
that they were able to
they
make that.
parachuted on a kid.
Well, I know, but even losing those assets, they're lucky their roster's as good as it is because most teams need those first-round draft picks. They were able to skate by, which is a credit to their organization. I mean, they have a good organization, definitely, no questions asked about that. But, yeah, I don't want Jamal Adams. I'm sorry. I have less than zero interest in Jamal Adams.
How about this one here? Now, this is an interesting one. Quan Alexander, I get it. Achilles injury a year ago in 23, but he was a staple for the Mike Tomlin defense when he played in Pittsburgh, and they released him. And I don't know what his health is right now. Now, a year ago, supposedly he hurt it. So that's usually a 9-month injury where you rehab it back from when he got hurt. So I don't know what that calendar date would look like. Would that be somebody that Howie would look at? Maybe, I don't know now, but as you get into the season or get into camp and you're looking as you get into camp, you're not happy with what you got right now. Would you be looking like, hey, man, is that somebody I'd be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a guy with a lot of experience. He's played a lot of games. I mean, I think he was a 4th-round pick way back in 2015. Yeah, the concern with him is, 2022 is promising where he played 17 games. He had 69 tackles, 42 solo. He had a decent year in New York with the Jets. But if you look at the rundown from 2018 to 2021, listen to this. 6 games played, 8 games played, 5 games played, 7 games played, 12 games played. And then last year, 9 games played. So he had the 1 year of 17 and 22, but 1 among 7 years. That's an anomaly. That's a guy that
I thought it was just 1 or 2. I didn't think it was a combination of 4 years like that.
4 or 5 years where he just missed so many games. Yeah, I mean, the player is actually pretty good for anybody that knows Quan Alexander. He can play ball, but I don't know. And the other thing is
ability.
He just doesn't care about the linebacker. I mean, I do. I'd like to see him add to the position, but I just don't see him spending assets at a guy like that,
I got another guy here for you, and I looked at it. I do not know what happened between him and Robert Saleh, but here's a guy in Carl Lawson. He's the former Clemson edge rusher guy. Now, get this, Zander. He only played 24% of the snaps last year, and he had 24 pressures, and he had 7 sacks.
He only played 6 games last year.
And he played and had how many sacks?
Last year, he had 0 sacks. He only had 6 games. The year before, he played 17 and had 7 sacks.
Yeah, that's the year I was looking at, not this last one where they. What would you make of him being an edge? And he's, how old is he? He can't be that. He got to be near 28 years old. He's got to be somewhere in there. And he's available.
95. So, yeah, he's probably 28.
Okay, so he's
29 years old, 29 years
Here's
old.
Here's another guy you can play at an edge.
Yeah, I mean, hasn't been very productive in his career, Big Sills. I mean, really, just nothing really stands up to
So you like Yannick more?
Yeah, I would say Yannick over this guy. I mean, he had rookie year, he had 8.5 sacks, so he came on strong. After that, 1 sack, 5 sacks, 5.5, 7, 0. I mean, to go from 8.5 sacks your rookie year to 1 sack the following year. Now, he only played 7 games, but that's part of it too. I mean, just not that productive of a player. I don't think Howie would make a move for a guy like that.
I want you to listen to me on this one here because I heard you guys talking about the running back position. Now, I want to show you something here. How about putting like you did in 17 with Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount, and you have Dalvin Cook back there. And here, hang on. Why? He's had a better career than Barkley, and he's been 1 year. Last year was the only year he didn't have 1,000 yards. And the year before, he's had 5 straight 1,000-yard years. He's had 4 Pro Bowl years. You put him back there, not as the bell cow guy, but you have him back there kind of like duplicating what you did in 17. And he's kind of like your guy to go to give him a spell. Why not get this? Last year, he was on that shitty Jets situation.
And they didn't play him at all. I mean, he played 15 games and had 200 yards.
They like Breece Hall there a lot.
They did. Well, Breece, I mean, I know why. Breece
no. He's good. No.
Yeah, Breece Hall
I get it. But prior to that, Zander, he's a year removed from 1,100 yards.
Yeah, and he had 4 straight years. I mean, 1,100, 1,500, 1,100, 1,100. He was a productive player. My only problem with it is he too much like what we already got? Now, I don't know. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know the full extent of his skill set. I've watched the player. He's a very good player. He catches the ball well. He runs the ball well. But he's not a north to south runner, right?
I think he's not. Yes.
Overall, he's not.
But he doesn't run the contact.
You got Barkley. You got Gainwell. You got Shipley. Like, dude, how many more guys?
I mean, let me ask you this. If Kenny Gainwell was in Carolina with that O-line, would he make the team?
Kenny Gainwell sucks, dude.
Right.
I'm so done with him.
I don't. What I'm saying about Cook is, like, everyone thought Jay Ajayi was done.
It's true.
He gets behind that O-line.
But the reason Jay Ajayi worked is because of the running back setup. Before they got Jay Ajayi, they traded for him.
Now, they are 2 different guys. Like LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi are 2 different guys.
Let me finish. So they traded for him at the deadline. He came into a situation where LeGarrette Blount was your bell cow, and undrafted free agent Corey Clement, who was more of a versatile guy, but overall pretty north to south. He was a bruiser type of guy a little bit. Could catch the ball. He had to catch, obviously, in the Super Bowl that we won. It was him, and it was LeGarrette. Then you added a guy like Ajayi, who was a shifty runner, who was a total different look for the offense. And it worked very well. That's why I keep saying to John, what is our infatuation? Look, I'm okay if you like the style and you want to have one guy. But why do you have 3 running backs on your roster, and they're all the same dude with different levels of skill set? Like, go and get me a guy that can run the ball between the tackles. You tell me every day, the Eagles tell me how amazing their offensive line is. Everybody and their mother wants to tell me. PFF wants to tell me. ESPN wants to tell me. Eagles want to tell me. NBC wants to tell me. JAKIB Sports Twitter wants to tell me. So get a damn running back to run behind your tackles. You got Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata. Nobody runs between the tackles. Like, it drives me nuts. So, no, I don't want Dalvin Cook, just for the reason that I would rather go and get a guy like LeGarrette Blount. Now, I don't know if there's somebody out there like that, but I'm just looking for that type of running back, and maybe it's never going to happen. So
I asked Frank Wright about what happened in 17. Jay Ajayi was a Frank Wright suggestion, how he went out, made the move for him. And get this, Doug signed off on it, and they went to Howie about it. But initially, that name was brought up from Frank. Frank wanted that kind of back because you know why? It kind of reminded him a little bit of Thurman Thomas, how his skill set was. He's not like Thurman, but he's kind of, his skill set was like it.
Yeah.
So that was a Frank
ball, man. But it's, guys like that, bro, it makes me nervous about Saquon. I don't want fans to jump on me because I'm excited for Saquon. But, boy, it's crazy how you see running backs drop off in this league. I mean, Jay Ajayi was playing at a very high level when we traded for him. He was in Miami. Yep. Remember, they didn't want to pay him. He was playing great ball there.
Yeah, no, he was 1,000-yard runner down there.
A year or 2 later, he was out of the league.
Yep.
I mean, who's the guy I always think of in Atlanta? They paid huge money to Todd Gurley. I mean, they paid him that bag because he was the best running back in the league for a couple years.
They actually picked up that contract from the Rams, and that Rams thing got carried over, and they extended it.
I know. And then, boom, out of the league. Who's the other guy? Le'Veon Bell. I mean, remember, he sat the year out. He wants the contract. And then he comes back. He's in
The
nothing
Jets gave
burger.
him 13.5, and then
Yeah.
after that, he
It
went, I
just
think, to
scares me,
Baltimore, and he
man.
was gone.
Like these running backs, it doesn't go like this with the running backs. It goes like this. And it makes me nervous that, Saquon is on that second contract. And I know college is a different game. He touched the ball a lot at Penn State. He was
did.
the entire offense at Penn State. And that's a little bit, it's a little bit nerve-wracking for me, to be honest. That's why, I hope, is Gainwell a guy that can even take the load off him a little bit? Not in my eyes.
I don't see him as anything special.
Yeah, this is a good point by Jack, and this is one of the reasons I love Ajayi. He says Ajayi left it all out there every play, cost him a bag because he was shot so early. It's true though, man. He left it on the field. He ran with vigor. I was a huge fan of him in that Super Bowl year when we traded for him, and I remember I was a freshman at Alabama at the time, and I watched obviously all that season from the school and from down there, and that was a special year. That really everything worked for us that year, man. Yeah, he's a bruiser, big, but are they going to use him, bro? He's an undrafted guy. Look, if he's the guy, perfect. We don't need him to be out there for every play. If he's the guy, I'm good with it. I'm just not optimistic that our coaching staff is going to be able to use the guy, like they might want him. He was an undrafted free agent. Let's see what he could do. But you're right. He is that style of a back. He's a bruiser back. Kendall Milton he's talking about.
How about this one here, Zander? Because he kind of reminds me of the Garrett Blount. Would you be interested in somebody like spelling Saquon like a Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, I think, and Kareem Hunt has shown that he's pretty good in that second role when he went back to Cleveland. Remember, and he was the second to Nick Chubb. Now, it's again the same problem we just talked about. He is, but like Nick Chubb is a north to south between the tackles type of runner. That's his game. And then you add
Kareem Hunt caught passes early on when what's his name got
I know
there.
that's what I'm saying. Do we want another running back to catch his passes?
He's a big dude, though, man. I mean,
he is.
He can run between the tackles,
and he runs with a lot of vigor. It's fun to watch, but he would be good. He would somebody I would be willing to break that mold for and go for him. I think he would be a good back. I don't think they're going to go there though. I mean, they've already invested more resources at this position than they have in many years. So I doubt they go deeper, to be honest. That's why Big Marshall has a point here with the bruiser. Maybe because he's already there and he's undrafted, they would go to him.
Here's Sean here. Landers Milton may be the guy. I live in Georgia. He ran between the tackles.
Yeah, he meant Kendall. I think he probably had some autocorrect. Yeah, Kendall Milton. That's him. Yeah. That's cool, Sean, down there in Georgia. I love when I hear where everybody's from. When people drop in, dude, Sills, we got people watching us from all over the country, all over the world, dude.
Bro, get this. We're well over 1,000 on Twitter right now.
Yeah, and they're watching from everywhere, man. It's cool. It's really, really cool thing. I love thinking about just that. I'm talking to people all over the world. It's funny. I feel like I know half these people. I never met them in my life, but I really feel like I know them. I talk to them every day.
What's really great is that they invest in us their time each and every single day.
Absolutely.
Because money's one thing, but people's time is more valuable than anything and any commodity that you have in your life, because that's something you can't get back. Money you can always go out and make again, but when you're talking about your time, you can't get it back. So it's a valued thing, obviously.
100% Big Sills. Well said.
So Cam Akers would be somebody that would be out, because that's a guy that's one of those people that kind of he's a pass catching guy. He's a cheap man's version potentially of Barkley. Now, he played in that system though with Sean McVay. See, Zander, I happen to agree with you. I think they need more depth at running back, because you know why? My concern is Barkley's health, and I don't think Gainwell helps you.
I don't think he helps you. And Cam Akers is young, but he's been largely very unproductive in his career. I mean, he had 2 seasons where he eclipsed 500 yards and everything else.
Yeah, but in that offense, they throw the ball around the yard with that Sean McVay. They don't really run the ball a lot.
Yeah,
was he more of a pass catcher in that offense?
No, he had 100 yards catching. So it's weird. He must have had 2 bad injuries. I don't know the history of the player.
There was a year he was hurt. About 2 years ago.
2021, he only played 1 game.
Yeah,
and in 2023, he only played 1 game. Now, 2020, he had 13 games played. 22 had 15 games played. Those were the 2 years he had decent numbers, 780 yards and then 625. Last year he played 6 games, 130 yards.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, just, you know.
Right now, we're looking at guys right now where you don't have to give up any
We're
equity.
looking at scrap heap guys. I don't
Yeah.
think so. I don't think he's going there. I don't think Howie's going there for the running backs.
So if you were going to look at somebody, you'd look at Kareem Hunt more than you would Dalvin Cook.
I like Kareem Hunt. I'd have to look at, what type of productivity he's had the last couple of years, but I like him. He's a good player.
And you like Yannick for an edge.
I think he'd be decent for the depth. I'd rather him, if you're talking about Brandon Graham as being depth, yeah, I think Yannick would be good depth as well.
We won't do, obviously, all 27, but do you have time for a little bit of these here with the 1 year?
Yeah, let's go. I got time.
I want to go thumbs up, thumbs down on a guy here. Okay. So there's going to be 27 Philadelphia Eagles that will be free agents in 2025. Devin White.
Just for the sake, though, before you start, how many of them are in the starting 22?
1, 2. You think Isaiah Rodgers starts?
I don't view him as a starting 22 guy.
You think Milton Williams starts?
It depends. I mean, if you're only putting 4 on the line and 3 back and well, I guess you would go 5 on the line and 2 backers. Yeah, he'd probably be a starter in that front.
Okay, 3. Do you think Mekhi Becton starts at right guard when the season starts?
Maybe.
Okay,
maybe.
so maybe 5, probably 4, right?
Yeah, 3.5.
Okay.
No, 3.
Right.
Probably 4.
So let's do this. Let's start with one of the starters. Devin White is on a 1-year contract. What do you think the odds of this guy being re-signed by Howie Roseman are?
Very, very, very slim. Basically none. Because if he performs, somebody's going to pay him bigger money than Howie was willing to go. And if he underperforms, then you're going to rotate him out like you have the last couple of years at the position. I think it's very unlikely we'll see Devin White here longer than a year. Look, I hope the guy can find it for him. Look, when I was a kid, and this is a random comment, but when I was a kid, my dad used to always say to me, athletes are people who play games for a living. The people are important. The games are not. Now, I'm a Philly fan, so the games are important too. But my point is, I hope he plays because I'd love to see the guy get paid. I love seeing guys have success. That's how I am. I love success. I like to watch guys have success. But to answer the question about him coming back to Philly, I don't think so. I hope he gets the bag somewhere else, though.
So, Brandon Graham, this is kind of like a ceremonial goodbye tour thing. You think he's productive this year? So he's out after this year. But that's not a massive loss because we're expecting this. But you think he's productive this year?
Brandon Graham, I think
for his percentage of reps.
I do, because he's been decently productive for the type of reps he's gotten the last couple of years. I think he's going to have a little bit more of a chance actually this year look, you're on the way out. I mean, he's going to leave it out there, man. He's going to leave it on the field. He's a guy that plays with heart, leaves it all out there. Great guy, energy guy, high motor. I mean, not many people are moving like he is at 35 years old. I mean, look, I know that age is scary in this league, but with BG, I feel a little bit better about it. I think he has a productive year. I do. I think he goes out on a good note. Love BG. I think he'll have a place here in Philadelphia. He'll never have to buy a meal in Philly again for as long as he lives. I think he's one of those guys. Remember, strip sack Tom Brady, my friend.
Hey, no, there's no doubt this guy will be wearing a green jacket one day for sure. Zach Bond, linebacker, 1-year contract, seems to be somebody that Vic Fangio really likes. Could this be a guy that could be the next version of TJ Edwards?
Maybe. No, because that's not his style. He's not a traditional middle linebacker. He's not a Mike. I mean, if anything, I think they might view him as another edge option or a pass rushing option. But I'm going to take off my Eagle glasses for a second. Who? Are we just so bad at linebacker that we're now talking ourselves into the Zach Bonds of the world? I guess
so. No, I'm doing what I
don't want to go there. I'm taking the glasses off.
Lowering it.
Zach Bond, I hope you're great. I'm not optimistic you're going to be great, brother.
What's the role of Vontae Maddox? Is there some place in this organization or the Eagles? They brought him. You know what, Zander?
Yeah.
They brought him back. They think something of him.
Well, he's a locker room guy. He's a great energy guy. He's one of those happy-go-luckier type of dudes. Can't say on the field. I mean, look, he's been great. He when he plays, he's actually one of the better slot corners in the NFL. I mean, he's played that position at a very, very high level, but the guy just can't stay healthy. He can't stay healthy. And now when you see what's happened at the corner position, when you see the youth movement that's taken place, I don't see him being here much longer. I think the guys that they made, the Isaiah Rodgers, the Cooper, I think in a way they were replacements for him. So I don't see him being here much longer than this year.
I'm going to give you some breaking news. I've been told that Milton Williams and the Eagles are having a conversation about extension.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
I don't know what the number is. I don't know how many years it is, but there is conversation and there is interest between both sides staying in Philadelphia. Now, to me, it's going to come down to his role. And if I were Howie, I would try to define what I look at him as. But here's the issue. When they offer you a contract prior to the season and you've been in a certain role, that's how most organizations see you, Zander. And Milton Williams may see himself in a different role because he hasn't been in that starter role where he's going to be more leaned on this year. So you have to make a choice. Do I take less money, stay with the sure thing, or do I gamble, go into the season, talk to them, and try to redefine what and how the league looks at me? So I think it's a bigger gamble for him because if he doesn't pan into being the guy that he thinks he is, and the Eagles offer him something, Eagles can come back with lesser money and say, here's our contract here. Because that's kind of what they did with Hassan here a little bit. So Milton Williams, this is a precarious situation here for him and the Eagles. I'd like to know how you think about how they look at him and if he's part of the future.
You know, I don't have any information to back this. This is an opinion or at least just my perspective on the situation. I don't think him not getting his deal done is from the Eagles side.
Yeah,
I think it's more of the player saying, Fletcher Cox retired. I'm going to have a bigger role this year. I have a chance to go out and really make a lot of money, whether it might be here in Philly, it might be somewhere else, and I might bet on myself. Now, the Eagles, because the funny thing about Milton is he's like the textbook player that Howie gets ahead of and signs. Like textbook, 3rd-round draft pick, showing some promise, can get him at a great price before, he gets that sky-high production with a lot of snaps. That's like Howie 101. That's like Howie's wheelhouse. And the fact that they didn't get it done, I think shows you that Milton's probably betting on himself, which I got no problem with. I mean,
none.
Yeah, I mean, go for it, my friend. I think he's right. I think he's making the right decision because he's going to get more playing time this year. But I think the Eagles want to get it done.
The open market.
Here's my concern with it. Not concern, but here's my question from the Eagles' perspective. And Howie's good enough, I think, to get around this. But you do have two upcoming first-rounders at the defensive tackle position. Now, I know Jordan's not really a defensive tackle. He's a nose. It's a little different. But for the sake of the conversation, you do have two guys that are probably about to make buku bucks. Are they hesitant to pay Milton as the third guy?
You're not paying a guy 15 and then the next two guys 20.
And that's now if they could get him for 8-9 for a couple years, they might do it because you have a couple years till you pay Jalen. You have maybe even 2 years till you pay Jordan. Now they might jump ahead of Jordan and try and extend him this year, do what they did with Devontae. But remember, they do have the 5th-year options. The Eagles don't use them much, but they might use them. It's interesting to think about. I'd like to see him back, though. I think he's a guy that I have a weird feeling about him that he's going to take off. Like he's a guy that looks like he has grown into his NFL body.
I like him.
Yeah, I mean, remember when he got drafted, he was undersized. I think he played at was it Louisiana Tech or I forget what some small school. I can't. Let me look it up.
It wasn't a Power 5.
No, it was not a Power 5. But he's a guy that Louisiana Tech. That was right.
Good program.
I like him a lot, man. I'd like to see him get it done. I just don't think they're going to go there because he probably is going to want more than they're willing to give him right now, and that's probably what's stalling that conversation out.
Isaiah Rodgers. Do the Eagles want him back?
I think so because it adds into the guy you asked me about earlier.
You ask about Avonte Maddox, and I say no. Well, you're going to have to keep some people in the room. Now, you have Cooper, you have Quinion, you have Keeley. Even maybe they could sneak Eli Ricks, a guy like that, or a Josh Jobe into the back end of the roster. Those are guys that are kind of ascending. They're better special teams players. I think they want him here, though. I think he's shown good enough promise, or at least they think that they'll try and get the deal done. But the problem with him is I think Howie's going to want him to play ball on the Howie side of things. And he might want more money than Howie's going to be willing to give him. And that might be what brings that to a head. But we'll see. I mean, he's a guy that got suspended, so he didn't play for a year, didn't see any money for a year. Got picked up on a minimum contract here in Philly. He's only making $1 million. So he's probably a guy that wants to capitalize, and that could also prevent it, right? I mean, this isn't like a guy that was drafted in the first round. He's been making major money since he's been in the league. So he's probably looking for that bag, and I can't blame him for that. So maybe we'll see. I mean, we'll see how he plays.
You think this is the final year of Kenny Gainwell?
I hope. Shit, I'm done with the guy, man. I really am. I mean, one, we don't even use him for what he's good for. He played a lot of receiver in college. Really been underwhelming. I mean, I don't know why. Like, there was times, even the last 2 years, where he would come on the field and you're like, I mean, I don't love Miles Sanders, but like, I'd rather have him out there than Kenny Gainwell.
He's 1,300-yard back.
Right. And then you have DeAndre Swift, same thing. You're like, what? I'd rather have DeAndre Swift in there. I'm just not a Kenny Gainwell guy. Look, if you guys are, that's fine. I'm not a Kenny Gainwell guy. I hope he's gone. I'd rather see a different style of back come here to complement Saquon Barkley. End of sentence.
Finally here, we'll not do them all. What are they going to do with Becton? How are they going to deal with him? Because any type of success, Zander, there's not a chance in hell you're bringing him back unless Becton decides to give you a haircut and say, and they go like this, we're going to sign you to a contract. And they could do it like this. They could begin to make the transition, especially if he shows the promise that he has with his ability. Remember, with Becton, it's been his availability more so than anything else. But this guy is an earth mover. He is a guy that you would want to invest in. And if he shows Jeff Stoutland that this guy can play multiple positions, he's willing to do what they take, I might sign him on one of those Devontae Smith type deals where you have escalator contracts where you pay this guy $60 million, but you started out 9, 10, 12. And then before you know it, in the third year, when Lane's getting ready to scoot out of town, you make that transition.
Yeah.
It jumps to $16 million, and you move him over to right tackle, and you have a seamless transition moving over to the right tackle position. I think you got a really good opportunity here. Now, the player's got to perform, and he's got to stay healthy. He's so young still.
Yeah, he's very young.
He came out of Louisville.
25.
I think
he's 25 years old, yeah.
He's 25 years old, man.
Yeah.
Do you think the Eagles want to have him part of the future? He's even said he wants to be part of the future.
Yeah, so the interesting part of him is the Eagles value the offensive line more than they value any other place on the entire roster. And that's where it's like, if he shows anything this year, whether it's a depth piece or a future starter, I would anticipate the Eagles go to the table and they get it done. I don't know if that's how it's going to play out. He's remember, he was a first-round draft pick that kind of underperformed. I mean, teams don't really just let first-round tackles go unless they're
walk out the building. They didn't even move them for a piece.
Exactly, and that's my fear with them. But I would say I would lean they're gonna extend him because the value they put at the line, his versatility, and you're going to need a swing tackle, right? I mean, you're going to need a backup even if you don't lose Lane in the next couple of years. So I would say extend on him.
What you said is the most important. They value the position.
Yeah.
And which means monetary. Most money, look at where Zander, at the end of the day, what's the number one skill set position that they spend the most money on?
Yep.
It's the O-line because there's 5 of them. You know what I mean? Hey, you can have your 2 wide receivers. They don't spend a ton of the rest of the money when it comes to the other 4 guys.
Yeah, we have a $80 million line? $90 million.
Well, you got 18 million with Malata. You got 20 million with Landon. You got probably 2 million with Jurgens or 1.5.
Yeah, but that's going to go up. That's a rookie contract. Yeah, I mean that's
rookie
a rookie
deal. Same with Steen on the right side if they go with him, and you got another $20 million deal on the right side with Landon. Now again,
yeah, I mean if you just go back to last year because we had Kelsey, right? So you didn't have the rookie contract.
Yeah, you had 15 million in the middle.
Million. Yeah, so you're up. I mean, you're north of 60 million on what you're paying that offensive line by a long shot
for five guys.
For 5 guys, they like that offensive lineman, and I love them for it. I think it's one of the biggest things. Now sign a damn running back to run behind him for fuck's sake.
This is going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out here. Zander, absolutely great stuff. Guys, please hit the like button. Do not forget to check out the morning show, Birds 365. Zander, on Twitter. How about this, Zander? On Twitter, over 1,000. Facebook, we're killing it. Look at that Twitter, man. We're over 1,000.
What's going on Twitter today, man?
I don't know, man. People are watching us on Twitter today. Our YouTube channel as well. Guys, please hit the like button. Zander, great stuff. Don't forget to catch him this morning, folks. We really appreciate it. Zander, great stuff, brother.
Thank you, Sills. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Appreciate y'all.
You got it. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.